I have is, I mentioned at the last commissioners meeting that I did send an email to Judge Lucci asking for some information on foreclosures and the use of public service officers. And I stated at that time, I'm sure Judge Lucci will probably respond to me, but unfortunately he has not. So what I decided to do was try to send an email to Judge O'Donnell to see if he's willing to be transparent with the citizens of Lake County. And unfortunately, the email bounced back to me. It was not delivered, and it was strange because I sent copies to the commissioners, all to your commissioner's account, and that was also bounced back. So I'm just wondering, is there an issue with the emails for commissioners, or is it just Brian Massie that has problems?
I'm looking over at Jason. I'm not aware that we have any email server issues.
I'm not aware of that either.
Mr. President?
Sir.
I've noticed that sometimes people don't fully spell out Lake County, Ohio. Sometimes you accidentally put in OH. Maybe that part isn't fully spelled out, but all of our government addresses are lakecountyohio.gov.
Yeah, what I do is a copy and paste right from the, so I think I got that. I'll try it again, and if I run into problems, I'll certainly let you know, because it's extremely important. I was hoping that Judge Lucci really would be, more transparent and willing to come forth and provide information to the taxpayers, because I really think transparency is the key to good governance. The third item that I have, I heard that there was a meeting yesterday. Early meeting, 7 o'clock, but the public I didn't see anything anywhere where there was a meeting. And I'm just asking the commissioners, was there a meeting yesterday that the public was not invited to? Any executive session or anything like that?
I can't speak to the not invited to. I can tell you there was a correction board meeting at 7 in the morning, but that is not a meeting that this board of commissioners, we're not in charge of that meeting. We're just participants and members. I'm looking to legal. Am I wording that correctly, sir?
I don't know, quite frankly. I'm unaware of what happened at the meeting, anything like that, so I really can't speak to it. I'm presuming
Craig Berry is in charge of it.
Who is it? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Craig Berry.
Corrections. Would that also be the judges? Would the judges be involved in that?
They were.
And the subject matter of the meeting?
I don't know that I'm at liberty to discuss that. I would probably say those questions should be better directed to Craig Berry, although I'm looking to legal as a member of that board. Can I on my own say what we talked about? I don't know that.
unless it's executive session, we don't know.
Well, okay. Legal's giving me
No secret.
Judges were just wanting to make sure that their view of a jail replacement was under due consideration. And we had I would call it a full and complete discussion on that.
Was there any video of that recording so the taxpayers could see that meeting and what was discussed?
I don't think so, but again, I was not running the meeting. I was just there.
Where was the meeting held?
About 30 feet behind you.
So in this room. Was there any transcript of the meeting held or written?
Transcript. I would imagine there'd be meeting minutes, but transcript, that has specific legal meaning to me, so I'm looking to legal. Transcript implies somebody's taking it verbatim.
Again, I'm unaware of any.
Fair
First of
enough.
all, unaware of the content of the meeting. Sure. Transcript, I suspect not.
So Craig Berry is the gentleman that I need to speak to on this, because quite frankly, I'll just say that as a taxpayer, as a citizen of Lake County, transparency is paramount for good governance, and not only is it needed, it is demanded.
Fair enough.
By citizens. So I will get with Mr. Berry. I will get with the judges, because the people need to know if we're responsible for paying for $100 million to $130 million jail, we'd like to be part of that decision making so that we know what's going on, so we can give you. I know you're the elected officials and you get the ultimate responsibility of deciding, but the taxpayers do not want to be shut out of this decision-making. So I will get back to the commissioners when I find out from Mr. Berry.
You look like you want to speak, but I want to say I'm uncomfortable with the term shut out. We're going through a process of talking with all of the interested parties, finding out what their needs are. We're going through a programming phase to find out exactly what needs to be in a properly configured facility. That this is not the time to be throwing it out there. So,
And just to elaborate a little bit, it was just a discussion. No decisions were made yesterday.
I knew that would come up. I've heard that one before. It's just an informational meeting, and I'm very familiar with that.
Like Commissioner Hammercheck said, the meeting was brought up to address the judge's concerns and nothing further.
We'd like to know what the judge's concerns are.
Absolutely. So talk to Craig Berry, and I'm sure he'll answer all your questions.
Okay, and if he does not, I will get back to the commissioners. Thank you so much.
Mr. President, I want to look to legal for a second. My impression is the same as yours, that the Corrections Board, which is established by Ohio Revised Code, is a public body. We are the members, though. We're not sending out the official notice that I presume is done by the chair and the secretary, as it normally is done by public bodies, but I've never, as one of 20, 30 some members, worried about the minute taking or the public notice given. I'm presuming that all requirements were followed, but am I correct in the impression that the Corrections Board is a public body?
Commissioner, quite frankly, number one, I didn't know the details of the meeting. I didn't know anything about the meeting.
I'm not asking about this particular meeting, but just the
whether
board.
That's a public body. I would say it probably is. I'd have to research it, but I suspect it is. And therefore, yes, notice should go out. Did notice go out? That I'm unaware of.
I'm guessing it did, but I'm also guessing that, like most notice, it's not particularly exciting when you flip through either the News Herald or Lake County Tribune and see that little blurb. I'll admit I don't read that section of the paper, and I doubt anyone in this room does. But that's probably the issue. But this was an ad hoc meeting. It wasn't the usual one. It was called, and so it was even harder to know that it was coming. It was also hard to get up at 7 a.m., I'm not going to lie. But we did, and it was not a hugely interesting meeting, to be honest. It was mostly an expression by the judges that they wanted to be thorough participants in the discussion, much like you're expressing that you as a member of the public want to be a thorough participant. But I just want to make sure that if it is a public body, we are sending out minutes and notices, which I'm confident that we are. But if we could, kind of close the loop on that and make sure that we're complying.
Sure. And you mentioned it was an ad hoc meeting. Again, I don't know if this is a statutory meeting or anything like that. If it were, I would think the notice would have gone out. However, just like other meetings where there's a quorum, informational meetings that you're familiar with, it may have been an informational meeting. Again, I was not present. Sure. I don't know, really. I don't know what was discussed. Informational meetings are allowed with public bodies. No decisions were made. I don't know how else to address it.
But I also think this is proper, and this is where civics kicks in. And I know you're always interested in learning new things. When we are serving on a board in our official capacity as commissioners, even if all three of us or a majority of us are present, that is a statutory exception.
What's the statutory exception you're referring to?
The official capacity. We were present in our official capacity. We're not there as voting members of this board at that instant in time. We were there as members of the Corrections Board. The reason that we were on the board is because we are commissioners. There is specific language in the revised code that allows for this. I want to be abundantly clear that this was no shenanigans or hanky-panky.
Well, yes, and again, I want to stress, I don't know the details of the meeting. Mr. Massie, you're very familiar with informational meetings.
Yes, I certainly am.
That you filed against different members of a former Board of Commissioners. Those are allowed. Again, I don't know exactly what the purpose of the meeting was, the content of discussion. That's all I can tell you.
I appreciate that.
Informational meetings are allowed, especially impromptu meetings as well.
I appreciate that, Mr. Hackman. I will do my due diligence, and I'll report back to the commissioners.